You are standing in a marketplace 5,000 years ago. There's no cash register, no coins jingling in anyone's pocket, no paper bills changing hands. A man wants to trade 3 goats for a clay pot. But the potter does not want goats. He wants grain. And the man with the goats does not have grain. He has goats, nothing else. So the trade collapses before it even begins. This is supposed to be the story of how money was born. Humans getting sick of this exact problem and inventing currency to fix it. Every textbook tells you this story. And almost every part of it is wrong.
So how did humans actually invent money? The real answer is stranger, older, and far more unsettling than the one you were taught in school. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand something about the numbers in your bank account right now that almost nobody actually stops to think about. If that sounds like the kind of thing worth knowing, hit subscribe before we go any further, because this channel exists to hand you the real story behind the things you use every single day without ever asking where they came from.
Let's start with the myth, because it has to be demolished first. The idea that money was invented to replace an inefficient barter economy comes from Adam Smith's 1776 book, The Wealth of Nations. Smith imagined early humans constantly frustrated by failed trades until someone finally introduced a universal medium of exchange. It is a clean story. It is also, according to decades of anthropological fieldwork, almost certainly fiction. Cambridge anthropologist Caroline Humphrey put it bluntly in a 1985 paper. No economy has ever been documented anywhere on Earth that ran primarily on barter before money existed. Anthropologist David Graeber expanded on this in his 2011 book, Debt, The First 5,000 Years, arguing that what actually came before money was not barter at all. It was debt, memory, trust between neighbors who knew exactly who owed what to whom and simply kept score in their heads. Think about that. The first economic system on Earth was not an exchange of objects. It was a ledger made of relationships. But relationships do not scale. You cannot remember debts across an entire village of strangers, let alone a kingdom. So humans needed something else, something that could represent value without requiring anyone to trust anyone personally. And the first attempts were strange. In ancient Mesopotamia, around 3000 BC, temples and palaces began using fixed weights of silver and standardized measures of barley as units of account. This was not coin money. It was a bookkeeping system, recorded on clay tablets, tracking who owed grain to whom inside a massive centralized economy. On the island of Yap in Micronesia, communities used giant limestone discs called ryestones as currency, some of them over 10 feet wide, far too heavy to move. Ownership simply changed through oral agreement. The stone never left its spot. Everyone in the community just remembered who owned it now. Value existed entirely in shared memory, not in the object itself. And long before any of that, cattle functioned as currency across huge stretches of the ancient world. The Latin word for money, pecunia, comes directly from pecus, meaning cattle. The word capital comes from capita, meaning heads of livestock. Somewhere in the deep grammar of modern finance, every stock market and every capital investment fund is still quietly named after a cow. Now here is where the story turns towards something more familiar. Around 600 BC, in the kingdom of Lydia, in what is now Western Turkey, King Alyattes issued something the world had never seen. Standardized coins made of electrum, a natural gold-silver alloy, stamped with the image of a roaring lion to guarantee their weight and purity. For the first time, value was not something you had to remember. It was something you could hold, verify at a glance, and carry across a border to a stranger who had never met you and never would.
Coins solved trust, but they were heavy, and they were limited by how much metal a kingdom actually had. So China solved the next problem. During the Song dynasty, merchants in Sichuan began issuing paper receipts called jiaozi around 1023 AD, backed by deposits of coin held in trust. It was the world's first government-issued paper currency. When the explorer Marco Polo witnessed it centuries later, he described it to disbelieving audiences back in Europe as a kind of alchemy. The emperor, he wrote, could turn paper into gold. Europe would not catch up for another 400 years. From there, the story moves fast. Gold-backed paper currencies stabilized global trade for centuries until the Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944 tied the entire world's money to the US dollar and the dollar to gold. That link was severed on August 15, 1971, when President Nixon ended gold convertibility entirely. From that moment forward, the money in your pocket has been worth something for one reason only, because enough people agree that it is.
So, the answer. How did humans invent money? They did not invent an object. They invented trust, and then spent 5,000 years searching for better ways to prove it existed. Memory, then metal, then paper, then a number on a screen. Every stage removed one more layer of personal relationship and replaced it with a symbol everyone agreed to believe in. And that is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. The dollars in your bank account are not backed by gold. They are not backed by silver. They are backed by nothing except the fact that millions of strangers, none of whom you will ever meet, have all silently agreed to keep believing in the same number. Money was never really about the coin or the paper or the metal. It was always about the agreement. And humans have been holding up their end of that agreement for 5,000 years, one invisible handshake at a time. If this kind of story is the kind of thing you want more of, subscribe now, because next time we are going to dig into an invention even stranger than money itself, and you will not want to miss it.